Hello everyone. This video is going to provide an overview on how to complete blog post number 4, entitled the Critical Analysis blog post. This particular blog post is going to serve as the first step in completing essay number 2. The purpose for this particular assignment is so that way I can ensure that you are selecting an appropriate text for the essay to be used for conducting the critical analysis, as well as to ensure that you understand the concepts and the terms that apply to argument, as well as conducting the analysis of the argument. When you click on the assignment, you are going to notice the directions here, as well as a couple of documents. First, what you're going to want to do is to select an article that presents an argument by the author who wrote it. It can also be an argument that is done on a video, YouTube, anything that creates some sort of argument where people are speaking and or writing. They are to be presenting a position, arguing a point, taking a stance on something, maybe making an argument about a definition that should be changed. Whatever it is, it could be about any topic you wish. I encourage you all to select something that you might find of interest, something that is not overly challenging in the sense of the time constraints that we have, as well as knowing that you will have to actually develop an essay from this particular article. What I would recommend is exploring different opinion pieces and or argumentative pieces that are found in articles, journals. It can also be in newspapers. If you are looking for topic specific, then I would encourage you to look for articles that kind of fall under the categories of your topics of interest. So for instance, if you are interested in gaming, maybe you frequent different gaming sites that you come across different articles that will argue maybe, the industry of gaming, e-gaming, whatever it might be, where the author themselves is creating an argument. For example, I just went on to the Huffington Post website, and under the opinions page, there are several, of course, contributions by different writers that address different topics. This one so happened to gain a lot of debate and discussion when it was posted back in 2016. And at that time, of course, anytime something comes up for debate, it always makes for a good discussion. So this one is called Getting Married is Not an Accomplishment, and the writer is Natalie Brooke, who just contributes to the Huffington Post. And what you'll want to look for is to make sure that they themselves are making this argument, and you'll want to make sure that you can identify what the argument is. More often than not, you can find it in the title, but that's not always the case. So in this one, just as an example, she says, 3 months ago, my then boyfriend Craig got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. I cried with excitement. After all, it was a huge moment in my life that was exceptionally exciting, special, and celebration worthy. But is it an accomplishment? No. So she answers the question here, of course, which would then mean that the main argument is, of course, getting married is not an accomplishment. Now, what you're going to do for this particular blog post after you read through the article and get a pretty good understanding of it is to develop a blog post that's going to identify the different parts of the argument. At this stage, you would have already watched the videos on argument, logical fallacies, also claims, as well as logic, inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, and so forth. So this will make much more sense once you watch those videos. But for this particular blog post, you are going to identify specific components just to get you started. For instance, when you click on the document here, Critical Analysis Questions, you're going to see this document appear. And what I'm looking for specifically is for the rhetorical situation section to be addressed, as well as the argumentative elements. In other words, all you are doing for this blog post is identifying, and you will identify the author's background, gain as much information as you can about the author. For instance, you have a bit of background here. She's a millennial writer. You can also click on Natalie Brooke and get more information about her. This won't always be available for everyone, so just try to get as much as you can from the article itself. Then you will try to identify who the target audience is. This is going to come from different places. It could be from the kind of website it is. It could also be from the kind of topic this is. Clearly, we're talking about getting married. It is from a woman's perspective. So the assumption is that the target audience, of course, is generally for everyone, but it could very well be targeted to women specifically, considering the culture and the context that women are often encouraged to get married as if it were an accomplishment. Continuing on, what context is in which this argument is situated? What this is asking you is what conversation or debate or discussion are they entering? And since she focuses on the topic of getting married being an accomplishment or not, the conversation stems around a cultural connection to marriage, tradition, and the perception, a key word here, of what it means to be married in the United States. Remember, culture plays a role here, so this may not apply to other cultures or countries or locations, if you will. Once you establish that, you will then establish and begin the key elements here. So for this, you will need to identify what the main argument is, and we already established for this one that getting married is not an accomplishment. The claims are going to be what the author uses in order to support the main argument, meaning what are the reasons why the author states that getting married is not an accomplishment. So what you'll need to do is go through the article and identifying those. What most students do is copy and paste, but you can also paraphrase if you wish. So as an example, you can see how in this student's sample, you have the author's background, target audience, context, and then the main argument here, the different claims, evidence, okay? This student decided to go further. You don't need to do that. We're just looking for the preliminary stages and identification of the argument itself. So as you go through, keep in mind that all of these elements could be scattered throughout the article, so be sure that you read through the article in its entirety. Again, why I encourage you to select a particular article or argument that is a little bit more manageable rather than complicated and intense, although you're welcome to do so. Please list out every single claim that's there, as well as the evidence that attempt to support that claim. So what do they use? You'll watch in the videos a little bit more about evidence and how that could look like different things. That could include concepts like statistics, research, studies, anecdotal evidence. That means personal experiences. They can use analogies. They might use hypothetical situations. Whatever that may be, you're going to list all of those out. Ideally, all of this should really stem directly from the text. You probably will not write too much of your own words here, but for the most part, you'll find that most of this can be copied and pasted or typed out directly from the text itself. While you are establishing your blog, this will be good to kind of keep yourself organized at the same time. While you don't necessarily need to turn this particular document in, you can also use this as an avenue to help keep yourself organized if you wish, which is the critical analysis chart. This chart is a Word document, so it'll allow you to copy and paste directly into the document itself and put it in the appropriate positions. So when you see the document here, main argument, quote, claims, all of the claims here, evidence, and so forth. This part right here will be part 2 of developing the essay. So what will be nice is if you've organized yourself with all of the pieces of information from the text, so that when it comes time to answer these questions, to start the writing process, you'll be able to take the quotes directly from there. And if there are any page numbers, then you'll have those as well. This is not what you need to submit for the blog post, but you're highly encouraged to start the process of keeping yourself organized for developing Essay 2. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Once I get the opportunity to review your blog post, I'll let you know if your articles will in fact work for SA2 or whether or not you will have to find another article that will be more appropriate. Remember, you want to avoid articles that don't take a stance or just kind of present both sides. You'll want to find a text that presents one specific position, a stance, trying to persuade, so that way we can identify the ways in which they attempt to argue and to determine whether or not it was a strong argument or a weak argument. For now, this blog post, to recap, you're simply identifying the parts of the argument that is presented within your selected text.